I'm tired of your degenerate fun. So you better tell me what you've done, or I'll blow you away with my gun.
Iain, you heavy metal mental case. Do you trust a man who rhymes?
Sometimes.
Nope, not getting involved in this. Stop right now. You okay?
Yeah, I'm okay, Gerry. You recovered from last week's ailment?
I have never been better. Well, I say that I've been better 7 times.
7 times?
Yeah.
On podcasts or just in your life?
In general, yeah. This is the 8th best time I've ever had or ever felt.
Wow, that's impressive. What did you think of Sledge, Rattle and Roll?
Loved it.
Yeah?
Yeah.
One of your favourites?
Yeah.
For this season or overall?
Overall, I think.
There's been some good episodes in season 2.
Very good episodes.
I wouldn't say on the whole it's been weaker than season 1. I know we've got 4 to go after this.
Mm-hmm.
Near enough the end that we can say it's not been a significantly poorer season.
You were of the same opinion of Columbo. So the general consensus with Columbo fans, aficionados, was that the revival was noticeably weaker. And in fact, many people thought it shouldn't have happened. But I think you were of the opinion that generally it was fine.
Yeah, it had its moments, and the average. I mean, maybe we didn't have as many highs, but it certainly wasn't as awful as I'd been led to believe.
Would you agree that the lowest low was in the original run?
Yes. Swan song.
Swan song? Okay.
Back to Sledge. The conventional wisdom is that season 2 is not as strong as season 1, obviously, but I don't.
I'm going to mention Swan song later on.
Are you?
Yeah.
I'll see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think with Sledge, you again have mentioned that you found some of the characterizations of Trunk and Dory, for example, inconsistent and not as focused, I suppose, as it had been.
Yeah, they became caricature. Certainly Trunk in particular became a caricature in the first half of season 2, but it's been a bit better since then. Also, in the first half, he was talking to his gun far too much. Now, we do have a return to that. But in this episode, yeah, but it's not been as bad of late. Yeah, the last few have been okay. We've been chatting about it. Do you want to officially start chatting about it? With a summary? Are you going to rhyme it? Are you going to rap it out? If you prepared that, I will give you all the kudos that you deserve. Please tell me you're going to rhyme the summary. The entire summary? No. Yes. No? No. Alright. Wait and see. Crack on. In Sledge, Rattle and Roll, Hammer and Dory investigate the death of Rack Vulture, a rock star with a bad attitude and plenty of enemies. When his bandmates and manager are bumped off to the group's contract, leads Sledge to the killer. With nothing to lose and his confession aired, the murderer tries to add Duro and Hammer to his list. Will the detectives be killed, or has the fatal blow missed? Thank you, Iain. Well done. That was fun. Yes, I thought so too. Boogaloo. We begin at a music venue, the back door to this venue, and we see some fans, a group waiting to see a very obnoxious English heavy metal star leave and enter his limo. He seemed less heavy metal and more Billy Idol to me. That's a point here. The way they act is more punk. It's Billy Idol as a sort of crossover between punk and heavy metal. But yeah, the act, I mean, there were talk of this Rack Vulture spitting on one of his fans. That's a very punk thing to have been doing. Yeah. I don't think how this band act is actually classic heavy metal behaviour. No. Anyway, he gets into this limo after hitting a fan with a guitar, and he immediately kicks out a girl that's waiting there and orders the driver to get moving. Which he does. As the car pulls away, we see a billboard naming him as Rack Vulture and his band, The Plague. That's right. It's kind of a heavy metal name, I guess. Not a great one. Not his name, the band name. Plague? Yeah, but it's more, The Plague would be more maybe like death metal. I was thinking, yeah. This is a time of hair metal. Okay. And The Plague, yeah. I thought it might be something that Ozzy Osbourne could slip into quite nicely. Anyway. Rack. And that's the other thing as well, Rack. It's not a name. No, Rat would have been
You know, if you're talking about the plague, Rat Vulture would have been what I'd have called him.
Unless it's named after somebody or something, it might be a nod to something.
He had a punk guy back in the 70s called Rat Scabies. Don't think he's named after him, but
It makes me think of Rattigan from the Basil the Great Mouse Detective, maybe.
let's crack on.
I thought you liked Sherlock Holmes.
Yeah, but
The Mouse of Baker Street.
Rack notices that the limo is going in the wrong direction, so he lowers the divide and what does he call the driver?
He calls him a wanker.
Now, this would never have been allowed in a British show at that time, but I think it's such a British form of insult that the Americans don't appreciate that actually, you know, it's a British insult.
Yeah, it's just a typical British insult. They don't know it's maybe a post-watershed type of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a sexual insult.
Yes.
And yeah, it would not have been allowed in that show had it been a UK-based show.
And it was quite egregious when he says it. It stands out as, this is a different level from the other jokes in this show.
Yeah. You often hear it as well because in America, they would say ass quite a lot.
Yeah.
And if it's an English guy, you would say arse. But you wouldn't really say arse in, you know, a sort of 7 o'clock show in the UK.
No.
It is considered a swear word.
Particularly when it's compounded with other words.
Yeah, like hole.
Or hat.
Features. So he calls this guy a wanker, and we don't see the driver's face.
We're going to have to mark this show now as explicit for iTunes.
We'll get away with it. We don't see the face of the driver, but Rack recognises him.
Yes, he says it's someone he's wanted or has told to keep out of his life.
He is then shot.
Yeah, but she responds to by saying, "What a bummer."
It's a crime scene. The next morning, the limo is on the street.
This is not something that actually happens, but I think we're only a couple of years away from this being something that actually happens.
Well, there's plenty of crime scene paparazzi shots. I mean, you search for any sort of death scene.
Yeah, but this is almost predicting the whole selfie thing. Nowadays, these folk would be here with their own mobiles, like leaning into the car window, getting their photos on their phone.
Without a doubt, yeah. Dory and Sledge arrive with a bump.
As usual.
Yeah.
Knocking over a little policeman.
And they have to wade through fans and an enterprising paparazzi who is selling pictures with a dead rock star.
That's right.
Sledge tries a little crowd control with his amigo before Dory points out who the victim is.
Sledge, do you know who this is?
No, I'm flattered you would ask, Earl, but I don't know every dead body.
No. This is Rack Vulture. He's a very big star.
Not anymore.
He was the lead singer in that heavy metal band, The Plague.
Hey, this is the heavy metal that made America great, Daron.
Huh. According to the powder burns around this wound, I'd say he was shot at close range. Could have been by the driver.
Yeah, or anybody else in his right mind.
Oh, look at this. He's got a dog tag. If I'm lost or brutally murdered, please return me to Jerry Vicuna, Electrocution Records. Must be his producer.
Rock. I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, Daron. You know why? Because this whole rock scene makes me puke. You know what's responsible for the moral degeneration of our American youth? Rock. Crime in the streets? Rock. You look under any rock, you know what you find? Rock. Well, let's go find this Vicuna character. Maybe I can catch him with some incriminating evidence and blow him away. Then we'll clear the court calendar.
And this is the heavy metal that will make America great again, apparently.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, will we? It's obviously, I don't know if in the 80s it was already tired, but certainly it's tired now, the whole sort of pushback against the suggestion that music / video games / films are ruining the youth of today.
It's never went away, and it's still each generation of parent has its own cultural bogeyman.
Yeah.
There was a law passed, I can't remember what it was, but back in the 30s, which prohibited and banned comic books for debasing the morals of society within the kids. And then you've got all the way through to Elvis being, shot from the waist up. He couldn't swing his hips because it was
degenerate.
Then you've got, of course, the 60s and the 70s with the rock groups. The 80s was particularly big about it. parental advisory stickers you get on albums
Okay.
because of heavy metal. You obviously have there was Black Sabbath, and there was quite a few high-profile bands, Judas Priest, who had to go in front of committees in the States because teenagers had killed themselves, and they were blamed for this because they had those CDs.
Yeah.
They had Marilyn Manson doing the same sort of thing in the 90s, and you've got computer games these days.
Horror movies.
Horror movies always, yeah, that was another big thing. But computer games, Grand Theft or whatever it is, all these type of things. There's always a bogeyman, and it's a nonsense.
Well, it's quite convenient for politicians to point to something other than themselves.
Of course it is. Not investing in education and safety and perhaps even gun control, you might say.
Well,
but yeah.
let's not go too far.
Let's not go too
That's
far.
the heavy metal that's going to make him... No,
But yeah, so no, you're right. But these things there's always been something.
it'll be something else. It'll be podcasts soon.
It will be.
With these people in our kids' ears
Yep.
telling them to resist and fight back. What they haven't noticed is the subliminal messages we've been putting in every episode.
Listen to it backwards. We head over to now. Was this either a deliberate spelling change or was it an Americanization? So, Electrocution Records.
Yep.
We would say electrocution. So they've got an I where we'd have an O.
Electrocution.
Yes. So I'm not sure if that's just a play on the words for
I think it's, yeah.
Is it?
I play on it because they use electric guitars and stuff
Yeah.
like that, maybe.
But yeah, but I mean, electrocution comes
I
from
know
electric
I
anyway.
know. Yeah.
Yeah. We're in reception.
Yes, I enjoyed this exchange.
The receptionist tells them that they'll have to change their name. Why?
Well, they say they're the police, and she says there's already a band called the Police.
That was a great line.
Yeah, they can't see Vicuna right now because he's in mourning. The morning light is flashing.
They do not pay any attention to this warning, and they storm into his office to find him less than distressed with a young blonde sitting on his knee.
He's being comforted in his time of need.
Of course he has. Vicuna insists that Rack was an animal and would have had many enemies. But Sledge isn't buying this. He's suspicious of Vicuna.
He is. He tells a story about the time Rack came to his house for a party. And he insulted his wife and kids, killed his dog, skinned his cat, and ruined his art collection. Yeah, Sledge and Dory ask him what he did about this, just as he told them to knock it off.
Sledge grabs Vicuna by the lapels and he blames the music for all of society's ills and he wants answers. But Vicuna insists, he doesn't even like this music. He's just trying to make a buck, providing the kids with what they want. And he tells him he should go and speak to the band.
While he's telling them that, the girl that he's with starts sort of schmoozing up to Sledge and stroking his arm. And he doesn't recoil, but he doesn't really reciprocate.
Not for the last time in this episode.
Absolutely not. And is it the same woman the next time?
Yeah.
Okay. I assumed maybe he had a string of women.
As he leaves, Sledge hands him a card.
Yes. For a discount at an ammo shop,
Yeah.
realising he doesn't actually have his own cards.
Now this is odd. He then whispers to Dory that he finds the blonde very attractive.
Oh, yeah, now there's no longer any sexual tension between them. He can be open and honest.
Yeah, but I don't know. It's just an odd...
It is a bit weird, and she doesn't react, which is also weird.
So we head down to the studio. The band are making
Tuning
a
up.
terrible racket.
Sledge thinks they're tuning up. But
No.
they say it's their new single.
They're not only abusing their instruments and everyone's ears. What else are they abusing?
Well, the roadie, I think, his name is Rocky or something?
Rusty.
Rusty. They ask him to bring them coffee with a snake in it, which isn't a thing.
Back then,
Vodka with a scorpion, okay. But coffee with a snake?
everything has to be done bigger and better when you're a rock star.
I presume that's the joke. In any event, they're rude to this guy. They're physically abusive to him as well, and emotionally abusive.
They then slime all over Dory, and Sledge tells them that, that just because she is attractive and has great legs, it's no reason to hassle her. So, that's a weird...
The whole thing's weird. First of all, she says to him, do you want to handle this? Like taking a submissive role, which is not what she normally would do. And then after he does that, she says, thanks, Sledge, that helped a lot. And it's not clear if she's being sarcastic entirely or if she's...
No, I think she's being sarcastic, yeah.
But it did help because they stopped.
Yeah. I was expecting Dory to perform a couple of her famous high kicks.
Yeah, or at least knock a couple of heads together.
Yeah.
Anyway.
But it was a weird response. But Hammer admitting to her her attractiveness is again just...
Yeah, and her not appreciating that.
Yeah.
Like, previously she might have, like, blushed or whatever else. And
Yeah, it's certainly the relationship is definitely going through a metamorphosis.
yeah, some kind of cocooning is going on.
Sledge then grabs the guitarist and waxes lyrical, as we heard at the top of the podcast, before Rusty comes back for some more abuse.
Absolutely. The band explains to Sledge and Dory that they hated Rack, and they explain some of his worst excesses before giving the roadie another kick.
They have written a memorial song for him.
Yeah, they're going out on tour in his memory immediately, and they start to play this song about Rack needing to be stabbed in the back.
Yeah, I think it's entitled The Pig Is Dead.
Yes. Sledge responds aggressively.
Yes, he is forced to electrocute them.
Oh, he's not forced to, he chooses to electrocute them.
He's forced to, have you heard them?
Yeah, that's true. And he does show some good science know-how to figure out how to electrocute them all.
He MacGyver's that up.
Even the drummer.
Yeah.
And Sledge says to Dory, now that's entertainment.
They leave and pass by the receptionist again.
There's a procedure to be followed in these circumstances.
Yeah, describe it.
She says that as part of the company procedure, she has to show them the string bikini that she's wearing.
She starts to reveal it.
It doesn't look like a string bikini, but anyway, before she can get too far, Sledge says, why would I want to see that? It's quite insulting.
And just leaves.
And she says, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that before. And they leave, and Dory makes no comment.
Trunk's office. And he is amazed to hear that Sledge wants 3 warrants to arrest the band.
Well, the scene starts with Trunk in his office looking out his window, and Sledge and Dory are having an animated conversation. And Sledge then comes in and asks for these warrants, but when he realises what a warrant is, he backs off the request.
Yes. Yeah, he didn't even know what one was.
In any event, they're too late. They can't get warrants for these bandmates because they're up on a plane already.
They are, and they switch on the television just in time to discover what?
The plane has crashed. And Sledge says, remind me never to use their travel agent. And the newsreader reacts adroitly on her feet, says, it appears their plane has crashed. Gory details at 11.
Sledge then cancels the warrant request.
That's it.
Over to the crash site, and this was fabulous. Did you notice it?
What?
The plane from the...
Yes, the chalk outline. I loved it.
That was good.
Vicuna is there for some reason.
Grieving over the loss of...
His plane.
Yep.
And Rusty's there, and he, although having been treated appallingly, explains to Dory that this was the best job he ever had.
And he's asked why he wasn't on the plane with them.
They were going to make him hitchhike. He also happens to be holding the flight recorder, the black box, although they're meant to be orange. This one is actually black. Sledge takes it and skedaddles before the FAA can show up and take it off him.
So this is when I was going to mention Swan Song.
Yes.
There was a bit of pang-burning going on here.
Yes, yes, air crash investigation, amateur style.
If you want to know more about Pangborn, listen to our Swan Song episode on the Columbo podcast. Pangborn was a good character.
I like Pangborn. I believe I said so in that episode.
I think we said we'd like to have seen him team up a few more times.
I think the actor was in it again, but he didn't play Pangborn.
No.
As Sledge and Dory leave, luggage falls from the sky.
This was a nice line.
I like that. It always arrives after you do. Back in Trunk's office.
Sledge is unsuccessfully trying to open the black box.
Dory says there's an obvious way to do it, and Sledge reacts in his standard fashion.
Yeah, he shoots it several times, causing many ricochets, which could have caused death to any of them.
I believe these might be the first ricochets.
Yeah.
Apart from deliberate ones that he's pulled off in the past. The first accidental ricochets in Sledgehammer, because normally they just ignore what the bullets are doing.
Dory has a simpler approach, and they are able to listen to the recording.
Anybody could have done that.
All right, let's turn the darn thing on.
You won't be laughing in a few minutes.
Sledge, have a little reverence. They were human beings.
No, they weren't. They were rock stars.
And I'd like to make hot monkey love to that sexy little Bobby, Detective Duro.
May they rot in hell.
Wait, what the hell's going on here? The bloody pilot just jumped out of the blooming plane.
I'm too young to die. I haven't even been to Europe.
You're from Europe, you pinhead.
I'm so scared I forgot. Ah! Well, What do you think?
It was better than their last album. And it wasn't an accident. It was murder.
Very much like Swan Song.
Yeah.
Pilot bails out, parachutes to safety, passengers are killed in a fireball.
That explanation is more realistic than the plan in Columbo.
Yes. Yes, it really is.
One of the biggest lots of nonsense I've ever witnessed.
I would have to question why the cockpit recorder picked up everything the passengers were saying without any background noise.
Yeah, that's a good point. Over to the cemetery, and Sledge and Dory jump into the limo with Vicuna and the blonde to avoid the more screaming fans after this little ceremony's taking place.
It's not explained why the producer would have screaming fans. Maybe he previously recorded as a recording artist.
Yeah, or else it's just a case of they're there anyway. They assume that
He looks famous.
yeah, you don't know who, it happens all the time. Give me your. If you're there, it's the equivalent of when someone runs on stage to do a mic test at a gig and folk go wild, and
Yeah, I suppose.
or they assume you're just part of the band. Anyone who's close to the band is worthy of a scream.
Fair enough. So that time those folk thought you were Dougal from Father Ted.
A different type of scream.
The woman, again, nudges Sledge provocatively.
Yes, with her foot. It's quite. It's more than a nudge. It's a full-blown rub.
Yes, and although when the car stops sharply, he gets a sharp toe in a painful
Yeah,
place.
Dory's looking at this rightly.
She's dubious, but again, she doesn't say anything.
I think she's a bit too shocked to say anything. She's thinking, what's going on here? Anyway, while this is going on, Dory asks Vicuna about the pilot, and he says that it was a new guy, and he denies a motive of boosting record sales following the demise of an artist, which you see every day.
You do. I mean,
Not every day, you see
every time there's both David Bowie and Prince last year, you saw them sell a lot of records.
Amy Winehouse, I'm sure. They all shoot to number one.
Michael Jackson. Many more. Let's name some more dead singers.
Adele.
She's not dead yet. Well, it depends. the delay between this recording and the podcast going out, that would be deeply unfortunate.
We can only cross our fingers and hope
that she survives.
Yeah, she survives, but in a dreadful accident loses her ability to speak, not just sing.
They'll still be able to play our old records, though.
Oh, yeah.
And in fact, if that happened, they would play them more.
Yeah, don't die, Adele. Just stop releasing music and talking absolute garbage, you pain in the arse.
Moving on. As they are booted out of this car, they are given LPs.
Yes, not CDs.
No, Sledge is very upset about that.
Yes, now before we leave this scene, we can't not mention Sledge's proposal.
Yeah, he just proposes to this woman on the basis of one foot rub. He's
Yeah, a
obviously,
proposal of marriage.
Yes. He's obviously been, I don't know, deprived sexual contact for some time, I guess.
Well, I think we know that.
Yeah, it's true. Through choice.
Of course.
Because he was hung up on Dory.
Yeah, and he had been utterly sickened from his previous marriage. He hated women.
Yeah. Well, he seems to be over that now.
Certainly. Sledge's apartment, and he's blasting a few of these records out of the air with his amigo.
When the neighbours complain.
Yeah. He then talks to his gun.
Annoyingly. And weirdly does what the neighbours ask, which he didn't used to do.
I think that may be a coincidence.
Yeah.
He then plays a record in the proper fashion. It's terrible. And he decides to play it backwards.
And there's a message.
What type of message?
Join the Navy.
After that?
Basically saying, I will get you all. These are my songs and I will get you all, something like that.
Yeah, someone has been cheated. These songs are mine. People will pay.
Yes. And
Sledge tells his amigo that they have to go and find this Looney Tune who wrote these Looney Tunes.
Hilarious.
Vicuna's office.
He's dead.
He is. He's been stabbed in the back. Literally.
They hunt a bit for the paperwork and it's in his hand. Naming the killer.
This is nice.
Yes.
Sledge wants to mess about with the body.
Well, he can't get the contract out of the guy's hand. He's like, managers, eh? And then Dory chastises him and he says, just because he's dead doesn't mean I can't have fun with him.
So they have to read the contract at the paperwork whilst it's still in this dead hand, and they discover that all the royalties go to Rusty, who is in fact Rack's brother.
That's it.
So they leave to go and try and find him.
The receptionist downstairs doesn't know where he is, so Sledge slips her some money to see if it will improve her memory.
It doesn't, she just takes the money.
She's happy for the money. Anyway, they spot Rusty on one of the security cameras. He's in the rehearsal room.
So that's where they head. He is strumming a guitar and seems very relaxed.
Yeah, I don't think he's in a mood to deny what he has done.
Sledge says that he appears a little rusty.
Yeah.
Before Dory puts their suspicions to him.
Your own brother ripped you off. He stole your songs, he got rich and famous, and he met girls. Does that ring a bell?
Oh, I admit it. I admit that I wrote the songs that put my brother on top of the charts, but then the boys in the band and Gerry Vicuna, they promised me a bright future. But, they wanted to rip me off as well.
So you killed them too?
Please, mate, let me give my own confession. Now, posing as the pilot was easy to do. I just brought the plane up to a high altitude.
And then you got a parachute and jumped out of the door.
I left those jerks screaming and hugging the floor, and now they're dead, you see.
You killed all three.
And now with Gerry Vicuna, I had to get creative.
So you stabbed him in the back.
Oh, I left feeling elated.
Now you've got a record. 5 counts of murder, 1.
I don't think the 2 more counts should bother anyone.
I rather suspect whoever wrote those couplets felt much happier about them than they should have.
Yeah, it's up there with the Maniac Cop rap.
Right, how's that go?
You can find it out for yourself. Search for Maniac Cop rap, it's a classic. Anyway, the start of that score there sounded very familiar.
You thought it was like the Superman music?
Yeah.
They certainly get into a lightsaber battle.
They do.
Before fighting with guitars.
Rack then jumps into the engineer's booth, tries to deafen them with sound.
Yes, and Sledge shoots the glass out of the booth and tells his gun that it just fired the shot heard round the world.
Mm-hmm. That's a reference to World War One.
Well, it's a reference to a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Folk use it in a sporting context quite a lot as well.
Sure, but I think the first would have been back in
Franz Ferdinand's assassination, yeah. I would say so.
Trunk's office for the epilogue this week. And he states that he's been told to reprimand Sledge again.
Hammer's incredulous. His gun's been in the shop for a week. How can there be any... It's not really mentioned what he's being reprimanded for.
And he asks if he wants his gun to do impressions. He can do a 45 or 38, but he doesn't like doing a little teeny 22.
Just a pop.
Dory enters to tell him that Rusty has cut a record from prison and shows them a magazine.
Sledge thinks he's inspired this record.
Why?
Because it's number 1 with a bullet.
Overall, for an episode, some fantastic lines and scenes, and I think Sledge was brilliantly unsympathetic. He's great doing that when there's a member of a deceased family, or we've seen it a few times where he's very inconsiderate. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Actually, that's kind of a Columbo thing as well, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
There are a lot of similarities.
Certainly is.
Anyway, yes, there were some nice moments and some weird moments as well, with Dory in particular. I'm not sure where she is right now.
No, it's the character is changing, as I said. She's not the same person that we knew.
Much less clearly defined.
But neither is Sledge. I've discussed that as well. True. They are both, I wouldn't suggest meeting somewhere in the middle, but they're not at the extremes that they were in terms of personalities.
It would be nice to think that was deliberate. And we're going somewhere.
Well, we shall find out. We've not got that many episodes to discover. Yeah, 4.
And then the big final show. We've had some folks submit questions already. If you want to do that, please do get in touch.
Yeah.
Let us know what you want us to chew over in the final episode.
Okay. Before we do the trivia, you're asking for requests here. Let's do a bit of begging just now.
I mean, the easiest way to get those requests to us is to tweet or Facebook us at Sledgecast. You can also leave them in comments at sledgehammerpodcast.com on any of the episodes, but the most recent one is usually the first port of call. The other thing you can do is leave your questions in an iTunes review. Then we'll definitely answer them, as long as it's a 5-star review. Otherwise, we definitely won't.
Some trivia.
Okay.
January the 15th, 1988 was the original air date, and it was directed by Bill Bixby again, and the writers were again Mert Rich and Mr. Pollock. Davy Jones played Gerry Vicuna. He died in 2012, aged just 66, an actor and musician. You know who Davy Jones is, don't you, Ian?
And the Monkees.
Cheeky little monkey, yep. Famous for acting and singing in the Monkees and also with a solo career, but he started off as an actor in England in Coronation Street, Z Cars. He's appeared in The Brady Bunch, My Two Dads, Herman's Head, and recently, or fairly recently, SpongeBob SquarePants.
My son is right into that at the moment.
Yeah?
It's always going on about Krabby Patties and stuff like that.
Right. Is it still being made?
I don't know, but certainly it's available.
Never watched an episode.
I wouldn't, if you can possibly avoid it.
I'll try.
But then I've had zero impact on directing my kids' viewing. You don't get much say in these things.
Tommy Swerdlow played Rusty. He was in Child's Play, Hamburger Hill, 1,000 Jokes, Real Genius, and as a writer, he wrote screenplay for Cool Running.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
I think it's its 20th anniversary this year.
Is it? Okay. Snow Dogs and Bushwhacked. Now, I'm just going to mention Bushwhacked. If anyone wants a laugh on YouTube, subscribe or watch the review by the Cinema Snob on Bushwhacked. Very funny.
Who's in Bushwhacked?
Daniel Stern. Daniel Stern was Joe Pesci's sidekick in Home Alone and the narrator in The Wonder Years.
Right.
He was also in Chud as well. Not Chud 2, but the Chud. Just as Chud or Chuds.
Okay.
First one. But the movie's terrible, Bushwhacked. But the review by the Cinema Snob is very good. Yeah, it's funny. Lisa Long played the receptionist. She was the sexy lady in Comrade Hammer. If you remember in the train, the compartment she kept.
Yes,
Yeah.
she kept showing up with her towel on and stuff like
That type
that.
of thing, yeah. Lee Arenberg played Buzzy, and I'm not even sure who Buzzy was, one of the band.
I guess, yeah, one of the three.
But we've discussed him before. Born in 1962, he has been in the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, Once Upon a Time, Friends, ER, Seinfeld, Star Trek Enterprise, Star Trek Voyager, Star Trek Next Generation, and Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And the reason we discussed him before was because he played paramilitary number 3 in Columbo's Grand Deceptions.
Ah.
Do you remember he was interviewing some of the
Yes,
paramilitaries?
they stopped in for...
And the third one was a bit of a wacko. He just liked killing people, and
Was that him?
that was him.
There you go.
The title is a parody of Shake, Rattle and Roll, a 1954 song penned by Jesse Stone, but most famously performed by Bill Haley and the Comets. Your favourite line this week, Ian?
We're the Police.
Ah, that's mine as
You
well.
have to change your name. There's
Yeah.
already a band called the Police.
That's mine.
Do you want to pick another one
Yeah,
then?
you go for it.
Let's go for... It appears their plane has crashed. Gory details at 11.
Okay. Next week, we have Suppose They Gave a War and Sledge Came.
Okay.
Intriguing.
It's a lengthy title.
Anyway, that's us.
Yeah, we'll see folk next week, I guess.
Cheerio.
Bye.